This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 856 for the week of Monday, February 17th, 2025. My name is Steven.
And I'm Greg.
And Simba is in the room as well. It is SGS week. The SGS is modeled after Oda's SBS segments, is our special off-week podcast where Greg, who is a columnist for VJump and OnePiece.com, and a series advisor for Netflix's One Piece series, and me, Steven, the translator for the One Piece manga in Shonen Jump and MangaPlus, break down the latest events and share our expertise.
That's right, folks. It's like the SBS with 25% less BS.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Nice. We'll see. You be the judge of that.
You judge that. I can't say that. You the people.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we've let's see. It's been a few weeks. We've had a longer than usual stretch of chapters.
It felt like the old times.
Soda. Yeah, it almost did. But here we are again. The Father Time has caught up to good old Eiichiro Oda, and so we are filling the gaps with our random musings. And what better way to start that off than to do a little catch up? What's new with you, Greg? How you been?
I went on a quest to get a piece of paper that is one of many pieces of paper that we need to simply buy a car. One wouldn't think that buying a car would be such a task. You'd think that they'd want, the companies would want you to easily accomplish that task, but no. Are you familiar with how buying a car works in Japan, Stephen?
Not particularly, but as I understand it, they do love their bureaucracy over there.
Oh, yes, it's a great thing. So here's how it goes. I'll break it down for you.
Okay.
You go to a car place and you say, "I want to buy a car," and they'll say no, and you'll say, "But this is the car I want," and they'll say no, and you'll say, "Can I buy a car?" And they'll say yes. And you'll say, "When can I buy the car?" And they'll say,
"May I buy a car?"
Yes. And they'll say, "I don't know." And that's basically where it ends. That's how it all ends up. And you just got to go to them sometime and hope that when you say, "I want to buy this car," they say yes. That is actually how it goes for cars. Not every car. There are, if the car is available, if it's not a popular brand or something, yes, you can go buy the car. But if you're trying to buy it directly from the dealer, there are very lengthy periods, like half-year periods or more, where you can just go to the dealer, and it is a car that is quote unquote available. It's being marketed. But it's just simply not available for purchase because they're very specific in the number that they make so that they don't overproduce. And everything is made to order, which is great for the company because they don't lose anything because they know exactly what they need to order and how it should be made. But it's terrible for the people buying it. So that gives you the pleasure of going to secondhand dealers who will sell you used versions of the car for higher prices than you can actually buy it from the dealer. Brand new. So that's super fun. That's just part of it. That's the wanting to purchase it part. Then there's the paperwork. But I went on a quest to find a piece of paper from the city hall, and it was a full day affair. So that was my I turned it into a little video, had some fun with that for friends and family, but that's been my adventure. And then, of course, I'm in a chocolate coma right now because yesterday was Valentine's Day.
Nice. So
my sister-in-law sent me basically a box of sugar and chocolate. So.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, it's time zones being what they are. It is today now over here when we're recording. So, yeah, my fun quest that I did is that so we've had a very where I live in California, we've had a very like basically historically dry winter so far, at least down in the southern part of the state, which is part of the reason why like it was so bad when they had those big fires in LA and stuff. And this week we finally got like a big just fuck ass storm that just barreled through and dumped inches of rain on us and everything. And so last night we were sitting around, my wife, she got home from work, we had dinner, and it's 8:00 or whatever, and she loves to do this thing now where she'll be like, all right, we're gonna play rock paper scissors, and she has some like, okay, if I win we do this, if you win we do that, and the stakes were like, if she won, we would change into our workout stuff and go to the gym together, and if I won, we would stay home, but I would have to take her car to gas it up for the morning. So either way, I was going to have to leave the house, and it was absolutely pouring rain, and I won. Paper beats rock, so I won, and so I take it out and I drive down, take her car down to like the little gas station that's like just down the road, and I get there and like 3/4 of the pumps have the little yellow plastic, on the handle that says out of service. And then the other ones that did not have the plastic on the handle, when I got up to them, like the thing on the screen just says like pump stopped or something. So they were also out of service. There was none of the pumps were working. So I get back in my car and I'm getting, the wind is just blowing rain like right in my face as I'm doing all of this. I get back in the car and then turn around and drive, across a couple blocks to get to the next place where I can gas up the car, and did that and was in such a bad mood. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to go in the little mini mart and like get a candy bar or something, just to treat myself for doing it. So, and then drive back, and it was just pouring. Like it was so bad that like everyone, even though it wasn't that late, I think everybody who had been out, and had driven home at rush hour in the rain was just like, no, we're not going back out. We're not. There's just absolutely nobody on the road, thankfully. So it didn't matter that I couldn't see the lanes, the lane markers, and where to drive, because nobody was gonna bump into me. But yeah, that was my quest last night. So happy Valentine's Day, my lovely wife. Hope you enjoyed your full tank of gas.
Hope it was worth it. Yes. I have two reactions to that story. First,
okay.
Being from New Jersey, I have to ask, what do you mean pump your own gas?
Yes. Yeah. I could have used someone there to just like wave me off, like, nope, not here. Go to the next one, instead of wasting my time. But
the second reaction is, I feel strongly compelled to now see this attack in One Piece. Gum fuck ass storm.
Oh yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, I really feel like I need to see this in the series now.
Yeah. So speaking of the series, we had 4 chapters instead of the usual 3 or sometimes 2 that we've been getting lately. So we had a lot of material to go through, but due to some time constraints on our part, and I think maybe just like a general wariness of how much material that would be to cover, we have decided we will probably pare it down, since we do have this this wonderful divisive, debate inspiring mural and story background, lore primer, whatever you want to call it, known as the Harley. I think we figured we would probably just mainly cover that, right? That was your suggestion.
Yeah. I think
for this one,
it would be fun to go through the chapter, but I mean, 4 chapters with the two of us alone. I mean, that's probably a 2.5 hour discussion just talking about the chapters.
Just on that, yeah.
So
Yeah, so that's probably what we will cover, and that will hopefully leave us some time to to go over the questions and stuff. Since we're trying our best to make sure we have time for that stuff, to get all of your thoughts and questions and comments and so on. So we'll get to that in a second. But lastly, let's see, Patreon plug. You can subscribe to the podcast over on patreon.com/One Piece Podcast, where most of the time you will see our sort of expanded episodes. I know that we like to put out special Patreon only versions that have some of our discussions in between segments. For example, when our artists like Steve and the rest of the amazingly talented folks we have show off their little sketches that they have been doing based on our discussions of the manga recap. And that's always a fun time. You can hear us debate over, which one we like more and so on. And you will be able to see all of those alternate sketches and alternate titles and so on, which is a lot of fun to get the most out of your podcast episodes each week. So do give that a look over on Patreon. And I don't know if we have a whole lot of news itself for the podcast. Maybe actually, I don't know if we actually even mentioned it, but we did get the announcement that Viz is putting out the Law novel, the Trafalgar Law side novel, as serialized in the One Piece magazine. That came out a few weeks, or the news, I should say, the announcement came out a few weeks ago. So that's something to look forward to if you have been waiting for that. I know it's been a long time coming. That was part of a batch of One Piece novels that they kind of licensed and had me working on over the last year or so. Very exciting that is going to see the light of day later this year. So check that out.
Congratulations.
But yeah,
that's a lot of work.
There's a lot of work. And with that, I'll give you some time to quell your laughter with that side-splitting pun I just gave you there, and we will come back and we will talk about that mural.
I completely missed your pun. What did you say?
You said it's a lot of work, and I said it's a law to work. As in Trafalgar Law.
Oh my God! I completely missed that. How does I drive the people at work nuts. Like, they hate puns. So, like, oh my God, beautiful.
This is the manga recap for 2 pages. That's all. That's all you get this time. But yeah,
Stephen, I don't think I've ever been scared of doing a recap or an SGS or a podcast episode, but this is terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's always worrisome when you go into something and like, okay, like, I don't really have the answers for this. Like, I don't actually know. I may not know more than the average listener of this podcast about what this represents, and certainly, so we're dancing around. We're going to talk about the Harley here, the big lore dump that we got in chapter 1138. And it's been a couple weeks now, and so people have had a lot of time to pore over this and make all their own theories and look at it from different viewpoints and such. And I'll just say off the bat, I don't think we can defeat the internet as a whole in terms of the breadth of possibilities and understanding of what this might mean. This is just 2 guys' opinions, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. But there's a lot to pick apart here. And I did go over. We were just doing a little game plan. Like I was on the week that we covered this with our regular manga recap on the podcast, and so I did do a lot of a kind of a forensic study of the text and tried to explain some of my stuff. But obviously, Greg was not there, so a lot of that will be new to him, or he has not heard that from me. So we will probably cover a lot of the same ground, I imagine.
In one aspect, at least.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to be going through, and I'll ask Stephen, his thoughts, and of course he can bounce questions off me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured a good place to start, and something that might be interesting for listeners, since this has been out there for some time, and Stephen has also had some time to reflect on it over the weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But is there anything that you're considering changing in the text when it comes to volumes yet, or are you even at that point where you can look at that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty early. Obviously, it will be a couple months until this gets eventually collected in a volume, and then the sort of the clock will start ticking as far as time until we finalize our version of it, and it gets lettered and redrawn and all that stuff that we do. But I think it's possible. So one of the things that I discussed, I used as a preface to talking about it, was that I was issuing a sort of a CYA or a cover your ass, as it were, a kind of disclaimer that due to various circumstances, in just either intrinsic to translating from translating between two languages, or translating between Japanese and English specifically, and the difficulties therein, plus the issue of prior context as far as like references to old things in the story that like I would have a reason to go back and sort of have the text match what was used before. It did create some difficulties in interpreting, where like I would end up like, oh, these words are different in Japanese, but I feel like I'm compelled to translate them into the same thing in English. And so I think there are possibly going to be some of those that I end up adjusting, or like going back on. I don't know if do you want me to get into specifics, because they're going to be very nitpicky, but
I would love to get nitpicky.
Okay. So I'm going to jump ahead. We're not going to start at the beginning here, but like I think there are probably two spots in particular that were kind of bugging me, and so I may again, this is all subject to change, and obviously anything more that Oda wants to teach us before now, and I have to make a final decision, will be greatly appreciated as far as as adding to our understanding. But I mentioned that so the second world and the third world, they had the first lines. There were two different kinds of either void or emptiness or something. And in the second world, it was kyomu. And in the third world, it was kuhaku. And I ended up kind of going at them the reverse of the way that I probably would have preferred to. And I think you'll agree with me, Greg, that so what is the first thing that you think of, word association, One Piece word association? What is the first thing you think of when you hear the Japanese word kuhaku?
Kuhaku no hyakuden.
Yes, the 100-year blank, or the void century. And that one's a little tricky because I think the original version, or the version that was used most prominently prior to me coming on, was 100-year blank, which is a very direct translation, and I never really liked the way that sounded. I've always liked void century. I think that just rolls off. It's a little snappier. And I think that the third world being a reference to a blank or a void in the midst of chaos. To me, it sort of screams like, okay, this is a reference to the 100-year period in the One Piece history that we don't know what happened because the history has been erased. And so I do kind of want to switch the void to the third one, and then maybe use emptiness or nothingness or something like that for the second world. Now, I'm curious. So just to break this up a little bit,
Okay.
What was your thought, or what was your first impression on the start of the second world? So that would be Kyomu ni Ibukiyari. Like what did that suggest to you?
New life.
New life. Okay.
Yeah. Just to me is it's because it sounds like this first world is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, Stephen, I can't describe how scary I am to say anything about this, because literally anything I say is just it's a field of rabbit holes.
Yeah, sure.
But so my thought is that well, God, see, here we go. Okay, can we circle back to this, please? Because
Okay.
I think in order to have a frame of reference, I need to walk through kind of my first experience.
Your whole thought. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
And I'm going to try to keep this real simple because time and people's interests and everything. But
yes.
Okay. The first time I saw it, first world, second world, third world, for quite a long time, I thought that this mural was depicting all three worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Quote unquote worlds, probably more like ages, right?
Sure.
Ages of the world,
right.
Civilizations almost, I guess you could say. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this single mural was depicting, on the rightmost side was the first civilization, the middle is the second civilization, and the leftmost side is the third civilization. And discussing it quite a bit at Arlong Park forums over the week. Another prominent idea was that it was a single event, like this just depicted a single story event, a single the events of the Void Century. This is the Void Century event. And so I put up a poll on Twitter, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think? It's too early to call. It's 3 events, or it's 1 event." And I think one of the first early replies was like, what if it's 2 events? And I thought for a second,
right.
like, haha, 2 events. Wait a minute. And it was just like, one thing fell into place after another. And I thought, perfect. Yes, that's probably what I want to go with. So I see the events on the right as the end of the first, moving into the second, which covers the leftmost side. And then the third is what we're currently experiencing, which is to say that the leftmost side of the Harley is a yoga. It's a prophecy. So we're seeing 2 events with a prophecy, and that's a whole boat in and of itself. But how I currently see this is in two of the worlds, with the events of the Void Century kind of taking place from around the middle over to the left-hand side, possibly. Tough to say again, but we can discuss that more later. So, circling back to your question, what do I see in the second world, or the first sentence there about the breath in the emptiness? I see that basically the civilization was wiped out. Life as it was known on the planet was basically wiped out. Entirely, I'm not sure. I probably don't think so, but that goes into where you think the movement of races and people were back then. But I think that it's life started to come back to this world, to this earth. That's how I currently read it.
Yeah, I think we are very closely aligned or overlapping on that, because what I thought, what I imagined was, and I mentioned this on the podcast, was that it sounded like the breath of life in the void, meaning like space travel, basically, and therefore drawing that same conclusion of after a big calamity, then some people fled to space. Perhaps that's when the space travel started, and therefore all of the all of the moon stuff that we saw in Eneru's story was subsequent to that era, that that it happened in the second world, and then they probably came back, or however the sequence of events turned out. But yes, that was my thinking, was like, okay, like outer space and life, so space travel or space settling or something like that, leading to a lot of the story that we saw with the Skypians and the Shandians and all that. So
I have no idea how that civilization went back and forth. Speeding ahead a little bit here, talking about recent developments in the story, with the information about the Buccaneers being a hybrid race, a mixed race,
right?
That can give you a little bit more clear of a picture, and I think it is possible to put all the points together now. It's just, I don't know if anybody has put all the puzzle pieces together in quite the right order. I don't know if puzzle is the best metaphor for that, but I think everything is on the table. It's just a matter of arranging them the right way now. But we can delve into that later. We're still talking about some of the text here and the changes that might go through. So we've got this one with the second world. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. Okay. So we're in agreement then that the start of the second world was a reference to space in some way, and that the start of the third world is referencing more of a historical aspect, or the canvas of history, there being the emptiness there. The other thing that I do feel is really kind of muddled with the way that the text is now is the half moon, which you will see is contained in both the second world. Those are the half moon dreamed, and in the third world, hear the voice of the half moon. And the second world reference of Hangetsu no Hito is, I think, pretty straightforward, or like in terms of the like how you interpret it. I think it is I don't think there's any like hidden special like trick in the Japanese or anything like that. But the half moon reference on the third world, we actually talked about that once you had read the chapter, and I asked you, like, okay, what do you think of when you see this word katawaretsuki? And I think you, if I recall correctly, you identified it the same way that I did, which was that it was part of that poem that Oda used in the Noland flashback, way back in Skypiea.
The title of the chapter, yeah.
Right, that it's meeting like through the clouds as the broken moon, or like the broken moon. But in the English translation, it was half moon, and I was like, oh God, like, if only they knew what a pain in the ass this would be for me. And so I don't know. I am definitely of a mind, just because I think that in terms of the conclusions that people can draw, and the theory crafting and all that stuff, obviously I think it muddles things up to have half moon mentioned twice. They may be pointing towards the same thing ultimately. It is possible. And you could argue that like maybe it probably doesn't even, it may not really matter that much in the big scheme of things, like whether they're the same word or different words. But for being the one who has to kind of obsess over these details, obviously I'm not enamored with having them both be the same thing. So I might change the third one, even though it is referring to the old chapter. I just feel like if you didn't know, it's one of those things where the word in Japanese is very distinctive. It is not a common word. It's a very poetic word. And so I think in the context of One Piece, like it is there for people who have have a strong memory for the various terms and language used in the series. That's how I identified it immediately, because I was like, wait, I've heard this before, in a way that you wouldn't say that about Hangetsu, which is just like a literal half moon. So it's one of those things where I'm like, no one who is reading this in English is going to have any clue that was, specifically an echo of this, this one poem in the, way back in Skypiea. So I may change that to something else just to avoid the potential confusion between the two refrains here. But that's, again, those are kind of like the two main things that I am thinking about. But who knows what else we will learn that might prompt me to revise other parts of the language.
And here we go with me retreading ground, but just in case anybody didn't hear the episode proper, did you cover the theories that half moon could potentially mean? Or I mean, that's a whole
right. We definitely talked about the pictographic potential, that a circle, if you cut it in half and you have just a semicircle, it looks a lot like the capital letter D. So there's obviously some inferences to be drawn there.
What's the other half? What would be the other half? If one was a half moon, what would the other half be? A rising sun or a new dawn?
A new dawn. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you talk about the cover of volume 27? I imagine Zach.
Oh, is that the Luffy with the cryptic smile, and he's got his hand over his heart or whatever?
He's giving a wink. Mm-hmm. So half. We
did not talk
half
about that.
The face. What? Oh my god. Okay. Was Zach on the episode?
He was.
What the fuck, Zach? He's Mr. Moon. This was how he got into the moon. Was when I damn it all.
All right. So okay, I got the picture. Okay, now
love
yes.
You, Zach. Okay, so cover of volume 27, you have a very strange depiction of Luffy. This image of Luffy is not in any chapter.
Right.
Usually, volume covers depict each character in a certain scene. Maybe very rarely in an inferred scene or one that was off-screened. But there is nothing in the volume that suggests that this occurred. You see half his face
with the wings,
and then that's the other point is the wings. Why the F does Luffy have wings? What does that represent? Well, if you look at half the face, it appears to be sleeping. Half the face appears to be awake, and he has wings. So, do those wings, and they're not full wings; they're the Skypian style wings. Do those wings represent a quote unquote half blood people? And are those the people of the half moon? These set of wings being, I guess, quite different, visibly different from the Birkins, who I think we call the Birkins.
Yeah.
Recently, I saw an idea that likened them to Vilca, because there's I believe a South American ancient I don't want to say tribe, but civilization that was like Vilca something. It goes on for quite a bit. I should check that myself, and I really liked the idea because it seemed to have like a very Aztec kind of vibe, And the ruins on the moon also seem to have similar structure and design. And I thought, you know what? I really think maybe maybe he did intend a shortening of that term in Japanese, because I looked it up in Japanese, and yes, it is
Biruka.
Biruka Nantoka Kantoka, yeah. And I thought, okay, cool. I kind of like that. So,
yeah, we didn't. We did not dig into this, but I definitely, after our discussion, because I wanted to kind of like straighten out my memory of and recollection of the details on the mural, and that was when I kind of like, so I'd never really put this together independently, but I sort of like, oh, now I get it, like exactly what the details represent, that they were showing three distinct people. That's right. That's what you see them leaving the moon, right? In one of the illustrations, and they have the wings.
Yes,
and it's that one of them is the Skypians, because they have the little hairballs. Yeah, the antennas. One of them are the Shandians or the Shandorans.
Yes,
who have the sort of stubbier
shorter
wings. The shorter wings. Yeah,
without the antenna.
Yes, and then the Bidukans or the Bilkins or the Vilkins, or however you want to call them, they have the full on angel wings, like the bent, the crooked ones that that have joints, I guess,
which are similar to the Lunarians, but they're not depicted as identical to the Lunarians.
Yeah.
God, that's why. So everything you mentioned about this is just like, it's so much history, but
yeah.
Where do we go? Where do we go?
Right.
What's next? What's next, Stephen? Help me, guide me.
All right. So wait,
what are we talking about next?
Where were we? What were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about the moon stuff. Yeah,
the moon, the half moon. I think we went off the changes of text to half moon.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to get into the mural proper?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm up for it.
All right. I guess we'll start at the right side.
Mm-hmm.
We have a modern city.
Right.
Here is what's very interesting about the modern city to me. And this is something, these are my own thoughts. I'll bring in something in just a moment that's another thought that is not my own, but I think is very astute. But what's interesting about this quote-unquote modern-looking city, other than the fact that it is a modern city, in the world as we know it?
Is it the... Are you referring to the fact that there is smoke coming out of the buildings, but they don't have smokestacks?
There's smoke coming out of the buildings. They don't have smokestacks. There is that. But I mean, just what's in the series in general? Is this the first time you've ever seen what look like buildings in the series like this?
I mean, certainly modern looking buildings. Yes, with lit windows.
Okay.
Right.
We have seen ancient stone carved buildings on the floor of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
We have never seen anything that looks modern.
True.
That's how old that is. That's how ancient this civilization is.
Right.
I mentioned on Twitter around the release of this is like, if you want another author's kind of perspective on like the history of this, the depth, the weight of history that this is depicting here, is look into some of the Mark Lawrence books. Mark Lawrence does Prince of Thorns, the Red Empire, the Girl and the Stars. He's done a number of. He works in trilogies. He writes in trilogies, and they're all their own contained stories, but all of them are actually connected. It's one world, and one of the big there is no reveal, but if you read them carefully and you go through, you slowly realize that, oh my God, all of these are depicting our future and his story, because his stories are all over the place. I think Wheel of Time does a similar sort of story as well, but Not only is it were there modern times, but it's us. It's humans. It's Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks. Some of his stories are based in modern times. Some of them are in the future. Some are in the so distant future that we've already traveled into different star systems. And it's just looking at the strength of humanity living through impossibly long stretches of time. And this is one of those things where this civilization is so old, and what I'm going to assume here is the first world, that even at the bottom of the sea, what is it? Is it 10,000 meters below the sea? Is that where Fishman Island is? 10 kilometers?
Yeah.
Because it's
Something
he
like
kept
that.
it rather simple. I think it's like 10 kilometers up and 10 kilometers down. We have never seen any indications of these kinds of buildings. We've seen things that look like Roman architecture with like pillars and stone. And I must assume at this stage that those are from the second world. But we have never seen anything, as far as I know, that looks like it comes directly from this first world as it's depicted on the right-hand side. We have windows that look like they are lit up. It looks like it's dark, and it looks like they have actual light and electricity.
Right. Electricity, yeah.
The smoke coming out. Now, this is another thing where you can get into all sorts. This is not my idea. This is a poster at Arlong Park. It's been a long time One Piece fans, very astute, is Ubik. And their thoughts were that they're actually trying to produce paraboloid to create
interesting.
clouds. Because clouds is paraboloid is the substance in clouds that allows them to act kind of like the sea and be what's the word? Not touchable, but floatable, buoyant.
Yeah,
in the sky.
Yes. Tangible objects that support.
That's one idea. That certainly is interesting. That would be Galaxy Brain Oda for sure. The first thing it hit me was just waste. Is that this is a wasteful world?
Right.
They're using, and this is absolutely what it could turn out to be, but that they are using this world basically for production. Oh, are you ready? Because here's where I want to go a little bit crazy. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I struggled with this, but I want to say that at this point in history, I think the world may have been abandoned. I think the world may have just been a production, a source of resources. I think these people basically turned the world into a factory, and that everybody lived the Kizoku, the rich, the powerful, the nobles, maybe even a alien and or higher race lived on the moon at that point, and the world was basically a dump. And they forced these people into labor to harvest materials from the earth and bring it to the moon. You see the people going down, and we can talk about these people for forever, but they're going down into the earth. It appears that they're coming up with something. They're loading that something into what appears to be a ship. We cannot see what kind of ship it is, but if you look at the other ship depictions throughout the mural, it does look like it's a ship. So the point being, the people who are harvesting this, whatever it is, are not utilizing it themselves. That seems to be what he's indicating. Stephen, what do you think this is? This object that we see throughout the mural.
Yeah, the little spiky.
Yep.
Little spiky balls things.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, certainly when you talk about bringing it up out of the earth and using it, or putting it on the ships, my inclination is that it is either it is a representation of power, or more explicitly that it could be a representation of the mother flame. Maybe it's a source. Maybe it's how they get their ships to to travel between the moon and the Earth or
Yeah.
other planets or wherever.
Yeah. Whatever these people are, they seem to be significantly advanced. So space travel doesn't seem to be a thing to them. If you look at these gears, what appear to be gears, I don't know what they are. At one point I was like, are they explosions? Are these, rough depictions of explosions? Is there a war going on? Is that a missile or is that a vessel? What is being depicted there under the city? But they do seem to be highly advanced, and yet they still need this quote-unquote raw material from the Earth. Looking at the people going into the Earth, they appear to be shaded. Now, we're going to talk about shade. This probably this may have to do with race/ethnicity. I don't want to put anything of myself into here. Just what I see and what I know in the series. But so far we know that Lunarians are the only individuals who have a actual shade used to their skin tone. That is, it's a given. It is part of the series. So whatever Lunarians are, they do have a darker skin tone. These individuals going into the Earth do appear to have a slightly darker skin tone. If we jump over to the left side and look at the character that almost to me unquestionably appears to be a Lunarian, would you agree? That
yes,
flight,
the one
winged
under the
creature
hand, yeah,
with the fire on top of it appears to be
right.
a Lunarian. If you
Yes.
compare them, they are slightly lighter in tone than the Lunarian. Is that intentional? I don't know. But it is absolutely, you can say without question that there are two figures, actually three, who are, well, four, goddamn this thing, who are darker than any other characters. And those would be the Imu-like figure,
Yes.
the Joy Boy
Yes.
figure, the Abomination figure, who I'm just calling it the Abomination, and the Tontata. The Tontata does not appear to have been shaded dark just as part of its size. It doesn't seem to be like a thing where it was just so small that the line work is actually making it darker. It does appear that he deliberately made it darker. But at this point, I'm not attributing too much to that. In terms of other darker figures of the same shade, we do have what appears to be a wyvern and the snake, figure. All right.
And did you say the king, the guy with the crown?
The Imu-like figure. Yes, is what I
call
him.
I see. Okay, so when you said abomination, you meant the on the left.
Yes, the
gotcha.
large thing on the left. If those are in fact two different things, but that's again,
sure.
So those are the darkest figures. The next step down would appear to be the Lunarian, and what I'm probably going to assume is Orz's great ancestor or ancestor.
Yeah, some kind of ancient giant. Yeah.
The hair is similar to Orz. We do have the horns.
Yes.
And they have a spear. Probably, I'm guessing Lance of Longinus because Evangelion and that.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Okay. So, and they do appear to be significantly larger than the other giant that's depicted. So yeah, right, like ancient giant size. That's the next step in shade, I believe. Yeah. And the Alabastas. The Alabasta individuals are also that similar shade. The Alabasta individuals being the ones with the three-pronged, I don't know what to call those things, ship and the Alabasta flag.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's pretty much a given that's Alabasta. That's their country's flag. So we can discuss more about them later. But those are the what I see as the mid-level shadings. Then, if you do look careful, what do you think? Do you think that the ancient giant, the Lunarian, and the Alabastans, do you think they're slightly darker than these individuals who seem to be going into the planet, coming out, or is that just me?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
I would categorize the people on the right side of the image as being kind of like, I guess, the base light gray tone that he uses for most of the the most of the art on this mural. That's how I see it.
Now, if we look for other individuals that are similar to them, we have the mink, the normal giant. And not that it matters, but Emmett is that as well. That from the fact that we know Emmett, that appears to be shading. But we also know that does indicate then that these individuals would be darker skinned. If we know how Emmett looks and we can compare the two, then it would seem that he is depicting them as slightly darker skinned. The mermaid, who I must assume is the mermaid princess Poseidon, also appears to be this same shade. One of the boats at the bottom has, actually two of them, have individuals with this slightly darker shade for their faces. And interestingly, the people riding the whale do as well. Interestingly enough, the Wano individuals, I'm jumping to conclusions here, but the people who are holding what look to be a katana, they have their hair done into
and a shuriken.
And a shuriken, and the kind of top knot style. They have lighter skin, or at least they are depicted with white faces. Where else do we see any white faces? If we move back over to the right side, it looks like the Vilken, who would appear to be a modern Vilken with the longer wings, similar to Uruj.
Yes, what we were talking about. Yeah,
and probably Aner before he, I must assume, tore his wings out. That figure has lighter skin as well, and it seems to be guiding figures that have lighter skin. I don't know if it's just a case of like it's a very dark background and they actually, like those illusions, optical illusions, where it's like something light on a dark background appears different than something else. Right. So I don't know if they're actually darker or lighter than the people bringing up the object from the earth, but to my eyes they appear to be lighter. So it seems like a light skin depicted Vilken is guiding light-skinned individuals into an arc in pairs. And that's very Noah's Ark here, right? Everything is in pairs. You see 2 by 2. Probably sex is male, female.
Right.
For whatever reason, it's very biblical there. I'm not saying One Piece is Christian. No, don't worry. I'm not saying anything. But he does, get inspiration from these things, these ideas, from many religions around the world. So those seem to be our ethnicities without going directly into the obvious, like, oh, that's a mink, that's a Sulong. But with respect to the skin colors, is there anything else you've picked up from that, or that you noticed that I have not, or that you'd like to add before I move on?
I would say, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would add, or I would add as a devil's advocate commentary, which I'm not going to stop you from continuing with your extrapolations, of course. But there's certainly an argument to be made that for some of these, like for example, for all the figures that are on the conveyor belt, holding the mysterious power symbol, etc., that he could have chosen to shade those all in simply to provide visual contrast, to make them easier to parse against a flat white background. So there's a possibility that some of these details are more incidental, or are intended to help certain details pop out better and to make them more easily identifiable. Obviously, there are certain aspects which are undeniable, which is that like you were saying, there are definitely some. I think the ancient giants, the Lunarians, being a different shade in between the darkest shade. Like that is definitely, undeniably an intentional thing to read into. I'm not as positive as far as, the lighter gray shade, but it is certainly something interesting. And you know, even if it was unintended by Oda, it still tells you a visual story that you can read into. So I'm certainly interested to hear where you're going to go with this.
Okay, that is my absolute qualifier for this. And I'm dying for the color version of this to come out, because I would love to know if he just didn't give two fucks about any of that, and he's just like, I just want to draw it like this. And I completely concede that may be the case. But the fact remains that these Wanos specifically have a whiter face, and all of the Wano leading families have moon in their name. If you look at the shogun families, the leaders of Wano,
right, the daimyo,
every one of them except for the Kurozumi have the Japanese kanji for moon in their name. So, and we have this Lunarian, we have this Vilken-looking individual, which appears to be leading people into the arc and up. So there's something there. I don't know what it is. And like you said, like, did he do it intentionally for each and every one of them? I don't know. I really don't. But there would appear to be something there for a number of these characters, these depictions. All right. We have this moon that's depicted in the sky. I don't know how we're supposed to, and I don't know if this is on purpose or not, but you notice the planets above the moon. You see that pattern that's on the one planet? Yeah. It looks very similar to a red line
on the snake. Yeah.
And it looks similar to the one on the snake, and it looks also similar to the band that goes around the ancient giants, what I'm assuming is the ancient giants belt.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, so I don't have to keep qualifying myself for this. I just like to state, like, everything that I say about this is, can I put it in quotes of, like, in my opinion, or what I'm calling, because nothing is settled on this.
Yeah.
If I can do that, and if everybody can just accept that, then I can talk a little bit more freely here.
Right.
I'm not dedicated to any single thought or theory, but I'm not sure if that design is supposed to represent Earth or not, as in Earth, the element Earth. We also know, I believe that, what is it? It's the god of the Earth was angry, and this snake came out. So
yes.
there is a relationship to Earth with it. But I can't say for sure. So it seems to me, going back to what I said much earlier about people living on the moon, what if there was a civilization on Earth, they became advanced, they used up their resources, and they went to the moon to live? There has to be a villain, and there has to be a kind of a demonized, a villain and a side that you could root for here. And I'm not sure which side we're supposed to root for yet. I don't know if the people who built this civilization on the Earth were a good people or not, or if there is a alien civilization. Did they populate the Earth, get to a point where they could do space travel, move to the moon, and then realize that there was actually a civilization on the moon? And is that how we got half people? And were these people living on the moon, were they a peaceful people? When the Earth got effed by this this quote unquote snake, this fire that was raging, did the people who lived on the moon try to rescue the individuals who were still on the Earth? Did they try to preserve their species, bring them into the arcs, and bring them up into the moon and or outer space? It's all a question of which came first. A lot of this could be answered if only we knew which civilizations came first. And it would seem that Buccaneers are also somehow involved in here. And this is how we got our Buccaneers. But I see one of the arcs appears to be going, if it is in fact the same, or if it is different, or if we're supposed to believe it's different arcs. If you look at the arc, it seems like it's supposed to be depicted as much smaller the one
in
if you
the
look
sky.
in the sky, right?
Yeah.
There, the two arcs, the one at the bottom and one in
Right.
the sky, between the battling forces of what appears to be the wyvern and the giant snake.
The serpent, yeah. Mm-hmm.
With also a bolt of lightning. Now, some people say they see the bolt of lightning coming out of it. What if the bolt of lightning is also striking it? Is it a force of good? Is it a force of bad? I don't know, but I can't say for sure whether we're supposed to see this arc going up and it's being attacked by another arc, or is that the same arc going up? It's just further away and then it's being destroyed. Either way, what we seem to be seeing here is something like Noah.
Yeah, no on the bottom for sure, and then
for sure,
then this is the curious thing too, is that the one on the top, especially with the lightning bolt, obviously puts in mind of the arc Maxim
very much.
But we were talking about this, on the podcast with like, I don't know, I don't recall that Eneru ever said anything to the likes of, oh yeah, I got these plans or something that would, obviously suggest that there was an original model or anything like that. Like as far as we know, he seems to have designed that somehow himself. Now you could argue that, if he is aware of his people's history, maybe he knows about this from, the records of the past or something, or, some kind of cultural memory of it and built his Maxim accordingly. But, I don't think we actually have any confirmation in the story of that.
I think it makes sense why Oda has been hesitant to pull in Uruj is because whatever's in Vilka or whatever they know, like they know something.
Yeah, it's got to be really important now.
Yeah,
looking at all this. Yeah.
Here's my thought. Skypia is quite close to this tree. Did Anair see this? Did he see this image, this depiction? If he didn't see it, did somebody from Vilka see it? It seems like this isn't a location that Skypians, if they wanted to and they had the means, they could just kind of drop in and have seen this or know it or have a similar depiction in their culture.
Right.
And if Oda's going to bring in Uruj, it seems like a great place for him to expound on this as well. He's the last supernova who hasn't had anything. So
yeah,
that's why I'm rooting for him and some Charlotte family stuff in this arc. But that's another.
That's another topic.
So this would seem to be how Noah was sent to the bottom of the ocean. Here is my thought. What if ships like Noah or ships like this one that we see floating, what if more of them are at the bottom of the sea? Or what if some of them made it out? What if some of them actually made it off the planet? Space travel does seem to have been a thing, but whatever they're trying to do here to preserve, it seems very rushed. Like these people who are on the planet don't seem to have a means to get there by their own. They do seem to be, and maybe this is just how I'm interpreting it, but they do seem to be led by this figure with the wings. It does seem to be leading them into this object. Now, what if they made it off planet in some of these, and this is how we got our space pirates? Because our space pirates they were very weird looking creatures.
Yeah, they
right?
did not look like regular humans at all.
Did not look like regular humans, but they did possibly look like evolved animals. And what we do see here are animals being led up. What I must assume are many species, pairs of animals being led into this arc for preservation.
Right.
Did they get off planet? Did they survive? Did they evolve? And is that how we got our space pirates? If you look at the space pirate ship, now granted, a ship is a ship. It's going to look like a ship. But the space pirate ship is similar in design to some of these arc-like ships. Is that the origin of them? Are they settled on some planet? There are a lot of planets around this Earth that we're on. I'm just calling it Earth, but did they make it there from here? It seems to me that they did. That seems like a very strong possibility.
Sure.
And then here's the other question: is this even this world? Maybe this is why we haven't seen it. Is this actually a different world? And is that the land that's depicted with the strip of what it seems to be land?
Yeah. Is that Earth?
Is that Earth?
Oh boy, that's a galaxy brain take. Woo.
Yeah. But you also have to consider is like, but how far after the flooding, et cetera, et cetera. Would it have looked like that at the time, or was that part of a prophecy? Who knows? But is that the reason why he uses the term world? Is that what we're seeing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how far you want to take that. I mean, I don't know how much sense that makes or doesn't make. I haven't really given that terrible lot of thought. I would like to believe that it does, that some of these battles and things did take place on our Earth. I don't know if they're all necessarily separate worlds, but there are enough worlds around in this solar system to garner that to foster that thought.
Sure, yeah, and I will point out too that the world, the word being used for world here, sekai, is I think you can also use it in more kind of vague, less explicit ways in English as well. But I think in Japanese it is definitely more. It is not explicitly just like planet. You can use it and interpret it in a variety of ways that are not necessarily just like a physical world, and that's why I think you can easily substitute period or era or cycle or words like that can also be a point of interpretation, I would say.
100%, because where are we in this story? We're in the new world, the Shinsekai, so it doesn't necessarily mean that. And that
sure.
And the first time I read it, I did not take it that way either, to mean a different planet. But all right, so that's kind of my thought for. What's going on there? Go ahead.
We haven't talked about this, and I know that some people were discussing this, and maybe there's something to I don't really have a good explanation for it, but so in the little perch where the king figure, the emu, is standing right above the Noah figure, there's some odd details here, which is that it seems like he's got two of the same like oars that the Maxim does. I'll call it the Maxim, the other arc up in the sky. And then there's this kind of weird little outcropping that I've seen a lot of people were interpreting like this sort of background blob to be Zunisha, and because it is kind of an elephantine looking trunk protrusion there. But there's a lot of the other parts of it that I'm like, that doesn't really add up to me. Like it's a little too, the visual aspect of it is a little too abstract for me to see as representing the elephant. What do you think of that? Did you?
The first thing I thought when I saw it was it's a ship, and then in looking at the image as a whole, kind of standing back from it, I absolutely saw Zunisha. This is really hard. Look at the shading job that's done on it. I mean, it seems to be very deliberate. There is no clear cut end on the ship there. The other thought is like, what if this is something we just haven't seen before in the series?
Sure.
That's always a possibility with Oda, and he's just trolling everybody. But I do think that there's a strong possibility that it is depicted like a ship in order to be a red herring. And that he wants people to believe it is a ship. However, you can also make the argument that those are tusks, and that this is in fact Zunisha. If it is a ship, I don't have anything in particular interesting to say about that aspect. I really, I don't know what to say there. If it's Zunisha, it's super duper interesting. Because we know that Zunisha was very closely related to Joy Boy.
And was apologizing for
making a mistake. Yeah. Yes, that it made. Tough to say, but it is a strong case to be made for that. And this is like this is crazy talk, but it does make the case. You can extrapolate a scenario from this depiction where Imu's current body is in fact Joy Boy. It is Joy Boy's body, especially with the darker shading on the skin. If Imu's essence is a conscience that can be transported from one object to another, then it does seem that, or if not Imu proper, if this abomination, if the abomination on the left, if its essence, its thought, its desire, its ambition, if you want to say it, could be transferred from one thing to another, then I would say there is a strong possibility that you can make the argument that the thing that we know as Imu is in Joy Boy's body. I do believe you can make that argument at this point, particularly really because of how their skin is shaded dark at all times. And you and I think we talked about this a little bit. Like, why is it dark? And is it just Oda being like, you can't see it yet? But there is a very specific aspect to it where the hair and the shorts and the Hamuro are always depicted as white, starkly white, and the body is always dark black. Imu, interestingly enough, as well, has also been depicted with that black, and we've just assumed this whole time that it's this scary shadow, and of course a part of it is probably that. But what if also it is a dark skin tone as well?
It would be kind of it would be a fun, like, sort of semi-troll on his part to be like, aha, here it is, and like, Imu is still largely shadowy looking because of his design. That that could be an interesting angle to it. Yeah.
The reason I suggest this is because we know for a fact, and I am drawing a conclusion here, but I'm going to call it fact because it seems absurd to think about it any other way, that this abomination is dead. Whatever shell this was, or whatever life form that it was, is dead, because we know that skull from Onigashima. The castle of Onigashima was built under the skull of this abomination. So
that's your thought of where that came from.
Yes. Oh, no question. And the giant sword, definitely wielded in for fuck's sake, as far as I know, it's Joy Boy's sword. The katana. And that's its final resting place, or its head's final resting place. So we know that that's dead. So this thing, whatever this threat was, is killed. But then why is Imu still a threat? And I think it's because Imu wants this body back. I think it wants it for itself. Are you ready? Are you ready for Are you ready for crazy shit? And this is not going to go in any particular order.
Okay.
This is going to be all over the place. And I'm sorry, you're going to have to reel me in here. Please do.
Okay.
Are the people harvesting, and this is not such a big conclusion, but I'm going to get to crazy stuff, but are the people on the right side, are they harvesting the possibilities for devil fruits? Are they harvesting the base of devil fruits?
With the halos, you mean?
They're going down with the halos.
Yeah.
And they're coming up without the halos and with these things. What do the halos represent? Are the halos literally their dreams? Are the halos to say that those are the dreams of the people? They go down, they trade their dreams for this object, and they bring this object, this source of power, up with them, and they bring it into the skies, and that's what's transported into the skies, into over to the moon. Uh, Look at our objects of power here. The sources of power. We have the snake from the earth. We have the wyvern from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
What are the names of the people who think they're better than everybody else? The
Celestial
Tenryubito, the
dragons.
celestial
Yeah.
dragons. Where the fuck in the story have dragons been an absolute integral part of the story yet? They have not. We've seen them in Punk Hazard.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Kaido was a Ryu, but that was a devil fruit power. It's not a naturally occurring power.
Yes. Yes.
And it's an Eastern dragon. It's not a Ryu. And we've talked about this a billion times, but Eastern dragon kanji and what we call a dragon or a wyvern kanji are different.
Yes.
The Japanese characters for them are different. There's a distinction, and yeah, Kaido is what you call a Ryu, and what we call dragons they're also Ryu, but they're usually Yomigana'd into dragon. I don't know if you can explain that better than I
Yeah.
can.
No, it's yeah. Well, just take his word for it.
Okay. So the dragon that we see here, I can't say for sure whether it's a dragon or a wyvern. It does appear to me to be a wyvern. What's the difference between dragon and wyvern? Dragon has 4 legs and wings. The wings are on its back. The wyvern has legs but no arms. Well, it does. It has wings.
Right.
So like the Game of Thrones dragons, those are
Yeah.
wyverns actually. All right. So sorry, glasses push up moment. Those are actually wyverns. Where else have we seen that type of dragon in the series? And this is a little bit mania. This is a little bit like cray talk. But do you know where else? And this is annoying as shit too.
Is this where you're going to get into the filler arc?
This is where we. Well,
I had a feeling you were gonna get to this.
Oh God! What if the Apis arc was actually an early arc done by the series when they didn't know that it was going to last this long? What if that was one of the arcs that they were kind of teasing or threading in end game aspects of the series? I'm of course referring to what are they called? The Century Dragons, the Millennial Dragons, Sennen no Ryu.
Is that what they called it in the filler arc?
It has a name, but I think they are called the Sennen no Ryu.
Okay, so 1,000-year dragons.
Yeah. And they are wyverns. They have legs like chicken legs, and they got wings. And it also has this big bump on its head. The big bump on its head could be nothing. It could be just to be silly, but it could also be hiding the fact that it did or at one point had horns. Look over at the abomination on the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
You have several things here. It's extremely large.
Mm-hmm.
It has horns similar to the wyvern, and it has wings on its back similar to the wyvern. What if this creature, whatever it is, was able to harness the power of multiple devil fruits? And that's why I'm calling it the abomination. Is what if this being that I'm going to guess was contained at one point is either the Hontai, the original body of, or had the essence of Im. What if that had multiple devil fruits? And if those things that we see as the power of devil fruits, the root of devil fruits power being loaded
hovering
into the
around.
ship, what are hovering above his arm?
Yeah.
There are 3 hovering above his arm. 3 different types, 3 different devil fruits. And that's why I'm calling it abomination. What if it was able to consume multiple devil fruits, and it was also subjected to a longevity, not spell because that's good, but a longevity ability. Who does Im seem to be infatuated with for one reason or another?
Yes, Vivi.
In modern days.
Or Lily. Yeah, Vivi.
Vivi. Who is Vivi's ancient ancestor?
Is Lily.
Lily. I think that and I'm going to use a term here that's going to anger some people. I don't mean it in a derogatory way. I mean it because it's really just the most pure way to enjoy the series. For casual readers who enjoy the series and read it week to week in Japan, I think that he's trying to fake out and make you think that Lily could be a villain, or Lily could be Imu, something like that. I think that's kind of a red herring that he's trying to plant there. We don't think that, because I think we're going much deeper, and I'm not saying that we're smart, just that we're thinking like in a completely different way.
Yeah.
But I think in the way he's depicted her, talked about her, that he's trying to make you think that maybe she was evil. Look over at the alabaster boat. What do we see by the alabaster boat?
Oh yeah, another one of those.
Another one of those devil fruit type powers.
Yeah.
My thought for almost since we've known her name was Imu in love with Lily?
Right.
And did Imu force her into performing the longevity spell on himself? And is that
right.
devil fruit there on the alabaster ship, is that representing her devil fruit ability?
Interesting.
In forcing her to do that, is that what caused the rift between, or trying to get her to do that? Is that what caused the rift between the families, and what caused there to be the split there?
Yeah.
It does seem to be lined up. If Im does have the longevity, then that would make sense why this vessel could die. And you've got the skull there in Onigashima. And yet he could be transferred over to Joy Boy's body with the same dark colors. Yeah, okay, good.
And it certainly is a much more satisfying explanation for the question of why did the Nefertaris not join the other kings. That is much more satisfying than just, oh, well, because they're good guys, because we know Cobra and Vivi and they're cool, and we don't want them to be associated with the evil kings of the the world government, and having that backstory to rationalize that split, I think is a much richer and more interesting story to tell.
Exactly. There are a lot of iterations that you can work off from that, and we're not going to do that today because we'll be here for another couple hours. But
yeah,
that's just an interesting thought that I've had. This object that's in its hand, the abomination's hand, what do you think that is?
Well, I mean, it is clearly drawn to be a son of some sort, or what did they might be giants call it, a sun is it's a massive incandescent gas, a regular nuclear furnace. So that could obviously be a stand-in for again something like the Mother Flame, something that represents an all-powerful weapon or ability or threat of some kind.
Big time.
Yeah, very
much in agreement. Yeah, did this have the ability to control the Mother Flame? Looks like it to me. And in this great battle, to me it seems obvious that its head was cut off. It did die, and in that death, since it may have been undying, did it transfer its powers to Joy Boy? And was Joy Boy at that point able to control Zunisha, make Zunisha do something terrible, horrific? And is that why we get Joy Boy apologizing? He's written those apologies, right, in the poneglyphs. Is because he's slowly being manipulated and taken over by this force, this Im force inside him. It also makes sense why he was staring at the hat like that, because it probably is his hat. Also with the hat, I mean, turn the hat sideways, and that's a D as well. And it also represents, a rising sun as well. So that's another thing about the straw hat.
There's a lot of symbology.
So that's some of my. I mean, there's so much more we can get into, but that's some of my crazy talk. To that end.
That's fun. That's some. That is certainly something to chew on and mull over. There are certainly some leaps you have to make in order to get there, but they're not. None of that necessarily seemed like anything that it would not be possible in Oda's universe and in the way that he writes the story.
I really do believe that the celestial dragons are trying to emulate dragons. I think they want to be the dragons. They saw that incredible power, and I think they wanted it for themselves. The way we see the way we see Jay Garcia when he gets the crazy eyes, the way he looks at people and talks down to people, I have to wonder: is that Jay Garcia or is that Im?
Yeah.
How did it look when Jay Garcia does the Indiana Jones mummification kind of thing? When he just ages in an instant, to probably his real age. How did that look to you? Did that look like anything was occurring there? Because instantly I assumed it was Roy, and that's my problem. Is I assume things a lot in the series, but like this is my first take on it. Did it look like anything was happening or going on there to you, or was he just like dying?
I mean, I'm not looking at it right now, but my recollection of it was exactly I thought what you were thinking, which was that he did the he chose poorly basically, and he was not rewinding, fast forwarding to his probably proper age. I don't know, that's obviously an assumption, but that was basically what I remember thinking about it.
Okay. To me, it seems that something is being sucked out of him. I don't know if that's his life force, so to speak, but it seems something is being drawn out of him, and it does appear to be a black substance. You go back and look at it, you can check it out. But my idea is that once you become one of the Gorose, Imu imparts you with something of himself. What if he can control you, speak through you, and in pulling that essence out of Jay Garcia, not that he did, but it seems to me that he did. Is that what causes him to age? Is because Imu doesn't age, or Imu can't die. So if he's in you, you don't die as well. Yeah. When he pulls that out, is that why he dies?
It's the puppeteer is removing his hand from the puppet, and then what happens to the puppet? Yeah.
So one of my earliest thoughts on the Elder Stars was, what if these guys are actually good guys? What if they
okay.
This goes back, and I still hold on to this. What if they are not so bad? It's just that they know what they're fighting against is impossible to beat, and they have no other way of going about it. Now, we've seen that they've said some really nasty things, and they've done some really bad stuff. But is that them? Is that them, or is that Imu working through them?
Okay, that is interesting, because I remember before we saw them, and like you said, and then they were just like, oh my god, these guys are real dicks. They're just super nasty, and like they view humans as insects and stuff like that. It was that prior to that was kind of one of my pet theories, which is like, oh, whenever anything bad happens, or like when they have the scene with Professor Clover, and it almost looks like they're like lamenting it with their little shadowy figure, where they're like, oh god, I can't believe we have to do this. Too bad, sort of thing. And that was kind of a thought that I had, but it seemed like that had pretty much gone to the wayside when we saw them, actually acting and kicking ass and stuff. But I mean, if as you say, if they are actually being literally controlled in some sense by Imu, or that if he has some part of himself in them that he can sort of reach out and and utilize, so that, you know, maybe sometimes it's more of them and sometimes it's more of him. You know, sure, maybe that would explain that shift between the two sides.
Now, we're going real back. We're talking like volume. We're talking Skypia.
Uh-huh.
One of my thoughts for them back then was, what if they're previous heroes? What if they're also pirates? And what if they were heroes who got to their position? Now, that is something I drifted away from over the past maybe 2-3 years. And, you know, as we've learned more about them. But now I find myself circling back to it because we know how old they are. What if they're the heroes of this depiction on the left? What if Imu, in addition to taking Joy Boy's body, what if he was like, you guys are super fucking strong. Like, you were able to take me out. You're mine now. What if he imparted himself in them at that point? So what if the dude holding the fucking sword there, what if that's him? What if that's, what is it, Jupiter? Nasu or something?
Which guy in the
Nasu Judo? Nasu.
Yeah, Jupiter, yeah. Ethan Barron.
Nasu Judo? Who's the one?
V Nasjuro. Yeah.
V Nasjuro, yeah. What if that's Venus Judo? What if he's holding the
Wano guy?
Yeah. What if that's him? What if those are the heroes and that he's just influencing them? I don't know. I really, I do not. They seem like really nasty people, so they could just be really nasty people.
The poor guy, he tied his top knot too hard and he lost all his hair.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
What's interesting is that we have seen that we saw Garland before he joined the Elder Stars, right? And we see him after he has joined the Elder Stars. And if we're going to go down this line of thought that I'm projecting out here, then we must assume that Imu's influence is now inside him, and it does not appear to give youth, which is just another interesting point to note and to hold on to, is that because he doesn't seem to have gotten any younger. So when we look at the images of who is it, Jay Garcia, from around the time that Emmett was found, he appears the same, right?
Right.
So yeah, it seems to freeze the people. It doesn't give youth, but it freezes you where you are at that point in your age.
Right.
So they could be, it could have been some time. Maybe he possessed, like I was saying, like it took some time for him to take control of Joy Boy. And as he did slowly over the years, he gathered the heroes who were there that day. Is that how that occurred? Is that how that happened? I don't know, but that's another idea for the Elder Stars. Oh my God, I'm so exhausted after every one of these things.
Yeah, and you'd have to, there would have to be some wrinkle or some explanation about why they were. I mean, unless you are suggesting that these heroes, even as they were fighting against the the abomination, as you call it, were celestial dragons already, or that they were part of the royal families, or if like Imu just conferred that status upon them when he decided they were going to be his pawns, since it does seem as though the five elders are from celestial dragon stock, basically.
They seem to be.
Yeah,
they seem to be, but I don't know that we have any proof that they are that born, or I'm not sure. Well,
there's a lot of empty space that he can fill in to explain that if that's
now that you're talking about stock, what if? And I want to make this really simple because this is something that I would probably draw out. So let me just get to the point. All of these races that we have in One Piece, if we look over to the right-hand side, the only race that we can see is the Vilken. Right? We don't see any confirmation of any other race.
Yeah, everything else just seems to be human.
Yeah. That doesn't mean everything was like that. And I don't think it was either. But after this tragedy occurred and the first world was destroyed, I think people learned about it and they tried to get that power for themselves. And how they tried to do it was by creating people that had these abilities or people that had this power. Look at the giants. They are large size. They have the horns. I think all of these were experiments in order to develop basically dragons, people with these abilities. Every part of them seems to have some of that. The Lunarians, they are the darker skin, like these creatures are darker. Whether that means anything in particular or whether they're actually descendants of the people who were forced to work on the planet, we don't know. Right. But what is the aspect that goes along with wyverns and dragons is they have wings. Look at this, the 1,000-year-old dragon. It does have feathered wings. They do have feathered wings. The Lunarians have feathered wings. And what else about a dragon? They have fire. They use that fire aspect. And they also have incredibly tough bodies. It seems like all of our modern races and ethnicity, well, I don't know about ethnicities, but all the modern races are derived from possibly lineage factor experimentation in order to create a super race. What better way to frame your villains than have these people who you created, then for you to go against them and to persecute them and to rip them away from your society? How low can you go? I mean, that would be a great way to frame the ultimate villains of the series who did this in the past. Fishmen and everything they've endured. What if all of that was in the name of for these assholes to create their super race, and then to turn on them like that? Unreal. Oh man.
Yeah. And this is not, we haven't even mentioned the extra details in just the following chapter of when Scopper is talking about more, hybrid races, including some that we've not seen or even heard of before. So it really seems like that aspect of the background lore is set to really ramp up in this arc and beyond it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how we get out of this arc without talking about giants and stuff. To me, it's so set up for Charlotte family stuff and talk about the giants and mom and their relationship and her, collecting all the races, right. And Uruj coming in. It just seems like this melting pot for potential with talks about how the races came to be.
Yeah. And it certainly gives, like, in retrospect, if he's able to tell that story or to give us or at least give us a story of the the background plot of the series in a way that resembles like what you were talking about, like if it's a lot of this stuff is the result of experiments or whatever, or like a search for power or something very very ambitious and very cynical on the part of Emu or the Celestial Dragons or whoever, or whoever is responsible for that. Like what an interesting way to reframe Big Mom's like personal story and her dream in a way that suddenly seems much more charitable. I mean, not that I thought her dream, her having everyone sit at the table was like a bad thing, but obviously she was a villainous figure. She was very dangerous. Yeah, she's a very bloodthirsty figure, but in the context of this almost like eugenics style programming and whatnot, like her fascination with that suddenly is the innocence and the childlike nature of that is much more pronounced and is an interesting way to get back to her story and frame her in a way that softens her image a lot from what we were used to when she was a prime antagonist, because this is One Piece. So once you've beaten a villain, they tend to look better in retrospect.
Yeah. Can I go into one more thing? May I
Sure.
go into one more kind
Let's
of thing
do one
here?
more.
And again, we're talking woo here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Blackbeard.
Oh yeah.
Imu is interested. Let's say interested in Blackbeard, right? He's one of the bounty posters that he had in that chapter, that famous chapter, was Teach, right?
Yeah.
Long have I thought that Teach has been on the run for most of his life. And a lot of this came from that depiction of him sitting under the moon, crying when Oda drew him as a child.
Right.
As time has gone on, I mean, we even now know where he's quote unquote from now, according to the Viva card. What is it, like Shade Port or something like that?
Oh, is that right? I don't recall off the top of my head.
So we even have that information out, but I'll happily call that a red herring.
Sure.
I think I've shared this with you before, but I'm going to go into a little bit more now with the Abomination reveal here. I would like to believe that Blackbeard is a result of the same kind of experimentation that gave us Bonnie, which is to say, what if Blackbeard was born to a slave mother and a celestial dragon at Jay Garcia's bequest? Because basically, the base level celestial dragons, as we know them, as far as I'm concerned, it's all but confirmed that they're just cattle for the experiments of the Elder Stars. They just breed them, and they're trying to do all of these different things with those children.
Right.
What if Blackbeard was one of those experiments? What if he was a successful experiment? And what if he got away? Oh man, I can't believe I'm going to say some of the stuff I'm going to say here. It's so out there, but so please reel me in, because I need somebody to be like, that's not going to happen, Greg, for this reason.
Okay.
When Blackbeard got away, because he was where he was, did he, similar to Doflamingo, did he see something he wasn't supposed to, and did he learn about the past? Did he learn a great deal more about himself than he was supposed to? Does he has an unusual body. We don't know exactly what's unusual yet, aside from the fact that he does not sleep.
He does not sleep, right.
Is the fact that he does not sleep, is that why he's able to take on multiple devil fruits? Is that because you do not dream? He does not see dreams. And if one does not see dreams, they're not limited in the aspect of their devil fruits and how many they may eat. And truth be told, let me pull this back just a second on myself. We don't know for a fact that if you eat multiple devil fruits, you'll explode. We don't know that. We've been told that. Marco certainly remarks on this. Like, oh, maybe it's because of his unusual body. But we've never seen it in practice. So, I mean, that's, anybody. Maybe that's even part of what Vegapunk's message was, right? The D isn't everybody. Everybody's a D, and everybody can, eat multiple. You can eat as many devil fruits as you want. I don't know. But that's not the point. That's just to pull myself back a little bit and say that is possible. But what if that's why he can? Is because he doesn't sleep, he doesn't dream, and therefore he can eat multiple devil fruits. Okay, go ahead.
And if he doesn't dream, then why is he talking about dreams all the time? Why is he saying that the dreams of man never end?
Right, because he wants a dream. Is that what he's after? Is that his dream to have a dream? Right?
Okay.
Okay. So, Imu, as the Abomination, was able to consume multiple devil fruits in an attempt to make himself into that wyvern type power, to make himself that quote unquote weapon, that terrible power. This entire time, have they been trying to create a vessel that could take on those on multiple powers? Were they successful with Teach? Is that why he has Teach's poster. Does he want Teach back?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, Greg, this is ridiculous. Of course, they would have gone after Teach right away. Sure, they would have gone after Teach. But when is the first time, as an adult, they would have known that he's the person they were looking for?
It would have been after Marineford, right?
It would have only been at Marineford. I don't care if he was on Whitebeard. He was a child when he left. They didn't have to know what he looked like, and as he grew older, he would only look more and more different. He just had to evade them for several years. Where did he fucking go? The safest fucking place in the world. Whitebeard. He was super protected there.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't even on the radar, and that was all part of his plan, which is brilliant. Either way you look at it, either from the simply the perspective of gaining the fruit, which is underhanded, of course. That was great just to like be a nobody in his crew. But it was double. What was it? Double pronged. Was it to hide out from the world government and in order to get that fruit because he wanted that fruit? Is he trying to collect the fruit specifically that this abomination had the power of? I don't know. But it is shaded dark. That's for sure. It does look dark, right? Mm-hmm. Can it cause earthquakes? Maybe. And did it have, I don't know, a wyvern fruit or a dragon fruit? Perhaps. Way back, mine was that he wanted a trifecta. He wanted darkness, earthquakes, and he wanted to be a dragon. What if that actually it is? What if it is he wanted to be not an eastern dragon, but one of the wyverns? So is Im now, is he after Blackbeard? Does he want Blackbeard back? Blackbeard being Blackbeard. I think it's 2 or 3 times now in the series where he's said he wants one thing and then goes for something completely different.
Yeah.
Is he doing that again with saying that he just wants this pirate land to be recognized as part of the world government? Does he want to get to Marijoa?
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those things where, like, I don't know if you can say it explicitly just from the way he acts, but just from thinking about like storytelling purposes, like that is a means to an end. That can't be his end goal just to be ratified. That's obviously part of something else. Just because, we know he's going to be a central character in the big story. So it has to be something very meaningful and surprising.
And this motherfucker has done it every goddamn time. I want something, and then he gets an instant. He gets what he wants. He gets an instant for that chance, and he takes it every time. And that's what he's, they're saying about always like the luck and what is luck and what is fate. Every time he gets super lucky, but that luck depends on years of him having set up a very specific scenario. And again, it seems like he's setting up a scenario for him to get to Marijoa. And somebody said to me, I was talking about a friend with this, and they said, well, then why would they, if that was the case, and they know who he is now, why would they ever allow him into the world government? They would absolutely allow him into the world government because that just brings him closer to them. Mm-hmm. It's extremely difficult for them to get him. If they could get him easily, they would right now, right? I mean, that's the whole point of a Yonko being a Yonko is it's tough to get to that individual because you have, it's not just it's not them. It's you have to get through everything to get to them. We've learned that with every Yonko so far.
Right.
So this works for both parties. He gets to go to Marijoa, and Marijoa, Imu gets him to come to him. And they both know that they want that scenario. He knows that Im wants him, and Im knows that he wants to get there too. But this is the best public way to accomplish that without causing a kerfuffle. Mm-hmm. So is that what's gonna happen here?
Man, I mean, I love it too because I really enjoy stories where you have like there's sort of two villains or there are two antagonistic sources and they are opposed in certain ways that will inevitably cause them to clash, and so it ends up with a story that is much more interesting and richer than just like, okay, the good guy, searches deep inside himself for the power to beat the bad guy, end of story. I think it's always fun when like they are sort of set up on a collision course where, in this case you would have like the in essence like the puppet master and then the puppet that gets a life of its own and wants to cause chaos and seek some kind of vengeance of his own, for as an example, as a way to frame that. And so I really like that, because I've always grappled with, and we've always talked about like, okay, well, what's going to be the ending? What's going to be the last fight? Is it going to be Luffy versus Emu? Is it going to be Luffy versus Blackbeard? And I think like working that all into one kind of storyline makes it much stronger than like, well, first we do the one thing and then we do the other thing, and having them be separate arcs and separate stories. So I really like that, that setting up that confrontation.
You know what my big question is right now with
What's
Final Boss? Like, who's it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
It's, does Emu absorb Blackbeard or does Blackbeard absorb Emu?
Exactly. Yeah, sure.
And here's the other option. Because Luffy is, and I mentioned this to you briefly before, but because Joy Boy is always depicted with that blackness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it literally, do you need the power of darkness and light together? Do you need the power of the sun and the light together in order to defeat this abomination? That's another out there idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that transference of powers is going to be something that we're going to get into, because how do you kind of outdo? I mean, introducing the idea of awakening and everything. We've exhausted a lot of the abilities of what you can do with the devil fruit proper. The last thing for him to do is any kind of transference and or combination. And we got a hint of that, a taste of that with Blackbeard. But I think there's going to be some crazy stuff going on back and forth in this final saga here.
I think you could be right.
And I guess just to kind of wrap it up, to bring the whole thing full circle, at least unless you want to say something at the end here, is this third world bit, this prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with a prophecy? Because if there is a life stream in this world, and I do believe there is, a life stream like consciousness, like a source of souls, a source of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you explain prophecy in the world? It would seem that if you have to read this stream of life, it doesn't necessarily make sense to read the future with a devil fruit ability or with super hockey, just straight up. Because if you could, then you'd know that everything is going to be okay. You'd know beyond this. You'd know beyond the third world. You'd know the end of time, right?
Right.
So there has to be a limiting factor as far as people can see. In terms of what that limiting factor can be and how far ahead can be seen, Oda has any number of options for that. And I could be absolutely wrong here. But here's an option that I like that stays within the world as we've seen it so far. We know that Toki can go forward in time. What if someone can go backward in time and they can only use their ability to travel backward in time? This individual would be able to be the crux of premonition. Because if they were to go far enough back in time and simply perish, they would then return to this life, this quote-unquote life stream, and they'd be part of that consciousness. They'd be part of that mother ocean, whatever it is, right? They'd be part of whatever that thing is. And if you're able to use hockey in order to tap into that, if you're able to find that individual who has that information, it would be possible for you to get flashes of what's in the quote-unquote future. Because that individual has already experienced it and they're part of that consciousness. Who would be a candidate for this? My idea personally is Blackbeard. Just because of what he knows about history, what he likes about history. I think it would be fitting for him to end the series going all the way back and living his life.
This is some Brandon Hodor stuff here.
Yeah. All the way back, dying. His essence. And okay, right. We know that Yomi no Kuni exists, right? It does fucking exist. We know that souls exist. That's a given in this world. We know that. Like, live stream or not, we know that souls exist. It's already been hinted at that Zoro has been to hell. You have the Grim Reaper. You have his comedic aside that says he danced back from the fires of hell, to get back here. That was supposed to be haha funny, but I wrote a whole article about how, like, he might actually have gone to hell and made his way back. He might have died. And that could be Oda threading that in as well, is that there are souls and these souls are watching him. And that would go back to my idea from way back when we first learned that Momonosuke knows Roger and shit. And it wasn't just that he was time trapped. I thought that he talked to their souls, but it comes back to that, is that these souls do exist. At the end of the series, will everybody be able to communicate with their mentor figures? That would be just the ultimate reward. Will there be a moment where they can use a conduit of hockey and talk to everybody, say goodbye one last time? Would that be the end of the series? And then would this individual, kind of Force Ghost, who goes back in time, being part of this essence, their soul being back there, is that what Charlie is tapping into? Is that what all these prophecies are tapping into? Is it that essence? That's how you could make a prophecy make sense in this world without having it being fucking stupid.
and then that vision of Odin could have actually been the real ghost of Odin, and we would have been right in that one episode.
I am exhausted. I'm sweating. I don't know about you.
Yeah, you got me on edge here. I'm on the edge of my seat. Wow, that's that's a lot to think about, and it's a lot that is resting on the Jenga tower that is this mural, which could come crumbling out from under us at any
next chapter.
Any moment. Yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun, though. I think sure there's a lot of out there stuff, and there's a lot of very very interesting kind of wish casting, I guess, if you will, of potential directions for the story to go. But I would be pretty surprised if nothing that we've talked about ends up being true, because there's a lot of evidence for some of this stuff. So I will definitely be curious to see how future developments possibly tie into to what we were talking about today.
Oh my God! Look at this. Look at you got the devil fruit kind of fuzzy things by the two creatures on the right. Right? What if that's actually what those things are? What if they're devil fruit derived? What if it was the land that absorbed devil fruits, and that's why the serpent from
turned into a serpent?
I gotta shut up. I gotta shut the fuck up.
It's time for the SGS segment. If your brain is still intact from that mind-blowing segment we just did, whew, I could have used a longer breather, but you know what? Our time is limited, and we got to get through these questions. So we are just going to take the questions from our SGS channel on the Patreon section of our Discord. If you are a patron member, you can get hooked in with our Discord, and you should be able to get access to that, and you will be able to write your questions there. So we will start with Felix Cutler, who says, Dear SGS members, this is a quick fire round. Choose one or the other. There is no correct answer. Okay, so we got a couple of heads or tails here. Choose one or the other. Doflamingo or crocodile?
Crocodile.
I got to say crocodile, too. Fujitora or smoker?
Smoker.
I'm going to say Fujitora on this one.
Okay.
Cobra or Riku?
Oh, God. Riku. No. Cobra.
Yeah, I got to pour one out for Cobra. Rebecca or Vivi?
Vivi. That's
Vivi.
not even.
Yeah, that's not a. Yeah.
Sorry.
Karu or Chopper? Oof.
A Chopper.
Yeah, sorry, it's got to be Chopper. Dory or Brogy?
Fucking hell. Dory.
Okay, I'll say Brogy. I think he's laughing funnier. Shamrock or Shanks? Come on now.
Shanks. Yeah.
Mother Carmel or Orochi?
Orochi.
I think I'm going to go with Orochi too.
Yeah.
Whitebeard or Roger?
I don't know enough about Roger Whitebeard.
Ooh. I'll say Roger. Saturn or Vegapunk? I mean, good or evil? Yeah, Vegapunk.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'm. What are these?
Yeah.
Are they fighting? Are they eating? Is this a cooking contest? Who makes the better?
There is no correct answer. Yeah. Do you like Vegapunk's coffee, instant coffee more?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Here we go.
Doflamingo, really asshole, but he makes a great souffle.
Okay. Here's where things get interesting. Hockey or Nen?
Oh my God, Nen! Not even a question.
I knew you were going to say that. I'll just say hockey. I'll just say hockey because I have not read Hunter and Ages.
Oh man.
Gin Freaks or Son Goku?
Yeah, Goku.
Yeah, it's got to be Goku.
Yeah.
Rama 1/2 or Inuyasha?
Inuyasha.
Ooh, I got to go Rama. I'm the Rama generation.
All right. Okay.
Griffith or Blackbeard?
It's a fucking. They're complete. You can't. No.
They're villains.
You can't. But they're like. No, Blackbeard, because based solely on the fact that he's not fucked up.
Well, you don't know that.
Blackbeard's like evil, but like think back on that shit, man. Griffith is.
Oh yeah, he's evil.
He's fucking
evil with a capital E, but
he's like evil, like satanic evil.
Yeah, I'll say Blackbeard too. All right, almost done here. Okay, so this will depend on if you've read these or not. Orochi, the manga by Kazuo Umezu, or Uzumaki, the manga by Junji Ito. If you've read either of those.
I know who Junji Ito is by like Twitter posts and stuff. So I'll just say anything that's not that person. Orochi, I guess. Am I choosing the worst or evil here?
You could be.
I hope not.
Yeah. I have read Uzumaki. I have not read Orochi, but I have read a couple of Umezu's series, but I have not read that one, so I will have to say Uzumaki by default. And
all
finally,
I know is I don't fit the hole. There is no hole for me.
Okay, sure. All right, last one: Princess Mononoke or Spirited Away.
Mononoke Hime.
Yeah.
No question.
Same thing. The Mononoke Hime generation for me. That was like the coolest thing when I first saw it. All right. Hope you had fun. And then he has a comment at the end here. So the Harley is something. Those buildings are nowhere. At least we haven't seen them in the main story. Well, I hope you enjoyed our discussion there. But they kind of remind me of the buildings Eno discovered on the moon, which he was able to power up with his powers. Were those skyscrapers once part of the world, or is this just a child's fantasy? We didn't talk about the electrical power aspect of the moon structures. So
yeah, that's why I think maybe
in.
The people who went to the moon were building on what they
Off
had
of what
on the
they had,
Earth,
yeah.
or something like that. But I still don't see them as the same structures on the moon. I see just because of how they're aligned, it could turn out to be that way. I could be completely wrong, but
the artistic style certainly is different.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is from Enzel, who says, "Hey, Stephen, Greg, and Simba. Just a quick observation I don't think got brought up during the manga discussion on the regular podcast and wanted your thoughts.
Okay.
With Shamrock's sword, everyone seems to be assuming it ate the Cerberus fruit. However, it was just revealed as Cerberus without a fruit name like Gunko or many other fruit reveals in the past. Do you know if this was also done with the other weapons consuming fruits we've seen, or could this be something similar to the Elder's reveal where it was just a yokai name and unclear if they had a fruit? I also noticed Cerberus has the awakening clouds, or it could be the clouds the Elders had if they don't have fruits. Could this mean Cerberus is something in line with the Elders instead of a devil fruit? Wanted to hear some additional thoughts. Thanks for all your great input as always, and can't wait for the next episode."
Okay. To me, it seems that this is a sword that ate the fruit, merely because of how the sword element is incorporated into their mouths, their tongues.
Sure.
That seems like a very lasso, like a very funk-freed kind of thing. And as far as the heads being shot off, I mean, a million people have already made this joke, right? But it's exactly what Oda's going to say, right? That's how Cerberus hunted in ancient times. Right? Like that's going to be the joke.
Yeah, or is it going to be the he has a button on his sword to shoot the missile punch the way that your action figures do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. I like that, the dinosaur thing.
Yeah. It's to me, it seems very much like it's aimed at being a fruit power. You're correct in that it does not give the fruit name or ability. But what if that's just the name of the sword, and this sword has been passed? This would be cool. What if it's an ability sword that has been passed down through the ages with that ability, and that's why it's named that? I don't think we've seen anything like that. Because we know that Vegapunk developed the ability to have objects eat fruits, right? And yes, sure, that it could be a modern thing that occurred that way. And the name of the sword is probably Cerberus. But what if this is like an ancient one? That would be kind of cool.
That would be neat, yeah. I wonder too, this is just sort of manga nuts and bolts, but Oda, clearly he's been drawing this series for well over 100 volumes now, and he clearly has come up with a variety of sort of variations on how to reveal that this character has a power. And I have to imagine that on some level, it probably drives him crazy, where he feels like he's done this every way, in every way that he can possibly reveal things is something he's done before and is not exciting and fresh. And so I can't discount the possibility that he just didn't feel like it flowed evenly, or that he didn't want to throw too much text on screen or something. It could have just been a whim on his part that he didn't put it, but it is it's going to turn out to be a very sort of by the numbers. It's just a sword that ate the fruit power. Or he might be hiding something. Maybe there's a weird angle to it where the actual animal, the model of the fruit is something surprising that we're not thinking of, that might come into play in a later scene where he does something that we didn't expect to see from the sword or something like that. I don't know, there could be a number of different reasons, but
Stephen is entirely on point here. I completely agree. And the only thing I could possibly add is that I think it's also troll. Because
sure,
fans have been fucking bothering him for over a decade about fucking Cerberus. With Blackbeard having Blackbeard, Cerberus, Blackbeard, and he knows this. He knows that the fan theories are all out there. So it could entirely be that you want Cerberus, here's fucking Cerberus, and you boom, right. Cerberus. That seems like a total Oda thing to do. So yeah, I completely agree, Stephen.
All right, cool. All right, last one here from SNP. Hey, Stephen, Greg, and Simba. So, what is the deal with Roger's Pirate? Does he mean Roger Pirates? One of my longtime theories since I learned of the existence of Gaban, because Crocus is at Reverse Mountain, the beginning of the Grand Line, and Rayleigh is at Sabaudi, the middle of the Grand Line, I thought maybe Gaban will be near the end of the Grand Line, one of the points where every pirate looking for the One Piece must go by, just like Reverse Mountain and Sabaudi. Then, when we learned of the Lodestar in Odin's flashback, I thought maybe Gaban would be there. And then we get a hint that someone might be waiting for these Straw Hats at Elbaf. I instantly changed, in my mind, Lodestar to Elbaf, and it finally paid off. So what do you think about that? Why is he here? Is he the burn scar man that is holding the last road poneglyph? He has a little scar on his forehead. He knew where the last one supposed to be. The last one supposed to be was the last time Fishman Island. So is he here because this is the strongest nation in the world with all of the giants that could help in hiding the poneglyph?
That is entirely possible. Yeah. We haven't seen his ship, right? We know that he can get around. We know that he saw Crocus. He has an ability to travel. We just need to see his ship. You know what would be hilarious is if the burn scar is like he was lighting a cigarette and like he burned himself or something.
Yeah. He just got a really badass nickname out of it.
Yeah. And it could be a red herring that Oda has given him the moniker Yamakui. Like he could be trying to misdirect. Yeah. It is Yamakui. What was it?
Mountain Eater, or was it Yamakudai?
Yamakudai. Okay. Yeah. I completely think that is a viable option. There are a number of people who also you think about whirlpools, right? Some people are trying to make, to create scenarios where it could be dragon. And I don't necessarily disagree with that either.
Sure.
But I think that Gavin is, from what we know about his ability to travel and therefore create rumors about himself, I do think that it is possible that it is he.
Okay. Confirmation. Yamagudai is the Japanese title.
Yamagudai.
Yeah, I had to open the file to look at that again.
Thank you.
Yes, Mountain Eater. That was what I called him. Yeah. I do think that it is, I don't know. I mean, Oda can certainly do that. I think he's probably done this before where there are characters who seem to have multiple epithets. But the fact that he called him, the Mountain Eater in this scene makes it a little bit more messy, I think, for him to be also, the man with the burn scar or the man marked by flames or whatever, however people like to refer to him.
I want to
still
say
possible,
but
but
that's on purpose to misdirect.
Could be.
I want to say that I do think that is possible for misdirect. Just because it would be a very nice cherry on top for the end of the arc after you finish stuff. It's like, oh, he's here the whole time, and by the way, I know where it is, so here's your next destination. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it does. It certainly does streamline the the guide posting for where the Straw Hats should go pretty seamlessly, if that's the case. But yeah, that's it for our SGS questions. As I said before, you can guarantee that we'll make sure we get to it if you are on our Patreon section of the Discord. But you can also submit a question on Twitter or on Blue Sky using the hashtag SGS Sensei, all one word, and I will I'll look for them Probably, I would say the most reliable way, if you do have a question and that's your preferred way of asking it, is if you know that we're going to be off the manga the following week, ask during that week, because that's the best chance. We will probably be recording an episode. That's what we try to do each time there's a break, and that makes it nice and fresh and more likely that I'll spot it and stuff. So. Go ahead and do that if you like. But I think that is going to do it. We've had quite a lot of discussion, so why don't we round this one off?
All right. As promised, 2 pages.
Well, it's been another wonderful and enlightening episode here on the SGS. And as always, it would not be possible without you, Greg.
Yay. That's me.
Yeah. What do you got going on? Is there anything upcoming to mention or recent that you can point people towards to check out what you've been up to?
Luckily, same old, same old. I've got columns up over at the One Piece website for Toei, and in V-Jump in Japanese if you read Japanese, and Twitter, Ojimusha108, and that's about it. Yeah.
Cool.
Staying busy, but trying to just keep away from the spotlight these days.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, and you can speaking of the spotlight, you can see my spotlight every Sunday on the Shonen Jump and MangaPlus apps, where you can read not only One Piece but also Akane Banashi, and also on a monthly basis, Shoha Shoten. Although I'm not sure how much longer that's got. We're getting pretty close to the climax of that one, I think. But now I have teased it once or twice. We should have bi-monthly or bi-weekly, whatever, every 2 weeks, simulpub of Trillion Game, which I have been working on for a little while now. And that is, you may have seen, and there's a live action show on Netflix. There might be an anime too. I'm not sure. But that is a team up between the guy who wrote, what was it? Ice Shield 21 and did he do Dr. Stone? I forget. I don't think so. And the artist Ryoichi Ikegami of Crying Freeman and Sanctuary and many of those kind of classic Gekiga. Very, very strange and entertaining but somewhat shallow manga about 2 guys trying to make $1 trillion. So yeah, they have the latest chapters up now, and there's a big gap between the volumes that we have put out the last couple of months and where those simulpub chapters are. But if you are interested in that, you can at least read the latest chapters, latest batch of chapters now before we go back and fill in all the old stuff. Outside of that, you can follow me on Blue Sky at stephenpaul.bsky.social. Where I post actively, and you can check out the podcast there as well. We are mostly active on Blue Sky now at onepiecepodcast.com is the address there. You can also see our actual website at onepiecepodcast.com, and check us out on YouTube. Check us out on all the places that you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., and so on. You can also call us on our phone line at 347-497-MAJI. That's 347-497-6254. Call anytime. I think, as they established last week, probably will never be heard. But, if we pressure Zach enough, we might shame him into actually listening sometime. But, yeah, you can send your voicemails there if you want. As for the podcast coming up, we should have another chapter of the manga next week, as far as I understand. Hopefully, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but it should be coming. And I don't think we have any special guests lined up, at least according to Zach's schedule. I don't think we have any particular special guest. So you will find out who we get next week. But until then, my name is Steven.
My name is Greg.
And I had to kick Simba out because he was scratching at the door. But he's here too in spirit. And
I have to get a Palico soundboard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that? Are you jumping in?
Oh my God! I'm so. My body is ready. I can't believe it's 2 weeks. I'm just shaking already.
It's close. All right, folks. See you next time.
See ya.